Welcome back to the Lemon Factor. I'm Chad, and today I have with me a 2019 Tesla Model 3 Performance variant. And what does that mean? It means it has a dual motor, all-wheel drive, 450 horsepower, 471 foot-pounds of torque, and it's a blast to drive. So like all reviews, I am looking for both the good and the bad. And by the way, some people call me picky, some people call me hard to please, and they're probably not wrong. However, here on the Lemon Factor, I am doing reviews and I am being nitpicky for you. I believe that not every car is right for everybody, and that I want to make sure that you have the information you need to decide whether a car or a car product is right for you. If you're looking to find out more about the Tesla Model 3, if you're interested in potentially buying one, then stay tuned. Before I proceed, don't forget to subscribe, turn on notifications, and like and share. So let me start off by going over the different features of a 2020 Model 3 Performance variant. They'll come with 20-inch wheels and rims, Michelin Pilot Sport tires. The car will be lowered, has larger, stiffer brakes. It comes with a carbon fiber rear spoiler, aluminum pedal set, and a higher speed limiter, increasing the top speed from 145 to 162 with a 0 to 60 time of 3.2 seconds, which is phenomenal. That is a fast car. All right, so the first question is, how do you get into the car? As you can see here, the handle is recessed into the door, and that's the case all around. For aerodynamics, I'm sure, but also probably looks pretty damn good. So there's two options. One, you can use the Tesla app, and your phone will then work as the key, recognizing as you approach the car to unlock it. The other alternative, which I have here, is the Tesla card that comes with the car. If I got out of the car and I wanted to walk away and I wanted to lock the vehicle, I'd put it up to the B pillar, and you hear the horn, a slight flashing of the lights, the side mirrors fold in, and the car is now locked. Again, to unlock it, and you can now get into the vehicle. So you push on the meaty part, the thicker part here, and the handle pops out. You then grab the handle and it easily opens. How do I feel about that? So I'm in New England, and I think any place that has cold winter weather, this could be a problem. And a couple reasons. I'm sure those of you who live in a colder climate have experienced this before. You come out to your car and you go to open a traditional door handle and your car's frozen. And for those cars, sometimes it's hard enough, and sometimes you feel like you're gonna break the handle as it is, just trying to pull that out. I wouldn't be surprised if you would experience where you can't even push the handle in to be able to grab it. Let's assume that you do, that you're able to break the ice and it releases and it comes out this way. It does feel okay, fairly robust. However, if you were to try to really pull on this because the door itself is a little bit frozen, I would be concerned that I might damage the door handle. Also, I have found that if I have a lot of things in my hand, trying to go through the process of opening the door, and it's not as easy as your traditional door handle. So let's take a look at the back. Plenty of room. The driver's seat is in the position I would be driving at. So as you can see, I have plenty of knee room and more to spare. I am 5'11", and as far as headroom and shoulder room, I am quite comfortable back here. The incline of the seat, the rear seat here is adequate. You're not sitting up too straight. The cushioning is very nice, actually. It's very comfortable. I like the material. This is a faux leather. It doesn't pretend to be leather. You can tell right off the bat, but it's not a bad thing. It feels very soft to the touch. 2 adults can sit back here comfortably, and even with the slope of the roof, it doesn't impede upon your headroom. We have in the back the typical center armrest with 2 cup holders. Unfortunately, there is not a pass-through from the trunk to the back of the car here, which is really interesting for those of you that carry skis or simply like to have access back there. You do not have access to the trunk from here. In the back here, we have 2 rear vents for your heat and your AC, which is nice, and you have 2 separate USB ports. Moving on to the front, you have some nice touch materials. 2 things that stand out: you have your traditional window controls with auto down and auto up on all 4, which is nice. And what you probably have noticed is there's no door handle. On the Tesla Model 3, we have the button. So if you press that button, the door will pop open just slightly, and with your forearm, you will push the door open. Now, if there's any electrical issues or a drained battery of sorts, there is a backup method to open the door, and that is, you may not be able to see here, right in front of the window switches, there is a lever that you can pop up, and that's more of a backup, so it is recommended by Tesla not to use that as your primary means to exit the car. Instead, use the button at the top. But should you need to in an emergency, you can pull up on this lever and the door will open. Now, moving down to the driver's side seat controls, you have your traditional controls for raising the thigh support, raising the entire seat, moving it front and rearward. You have the seat back itself inclined, and then you do have a nice lumbar support. Again, these seats, although not leather, have a nice touch to them. They're very soft, very supportive. I will say that although I don't consider myself a large individual, I think maybe I'm of average size, these seats have enough support. I like them, but if you're a larger individual than myself, you might want to sit in the Tesla and give it a try, because I could see them being maybe a tad on the small side. We have your center armrest, which is very nice and robust. The cushioning on this is not hard, but it's not too soft. So I am actually really happy with this. It's also of a size that you can share as a driver. You can share it with your passenger. So opening this up, we do have somewhat of a storage compartment. And I say that because it may appear from your angle that this is rather robust. And it does recess in a little bit, but there's this weird curve so that it's not a perfect square at the bottom. Nonetheless, we also have within here your traditional 12-volt outlet, which is nice. Moving to the front here, we have our 2 cup holders, and I don't know if it's picking it up on the video, but we have some peel on the paneling here. This is not OEM. The owner of this vehicle had this installed afterwards, so I don't want you to view this thinking that, you know, it's a defect from Tesla. We open up the compartment here in front of the cup holders for a much deeper storage area. This is much deeper than the one in the armrest. Inside here, which is difficult to see, we'll raise this up. You have 2 USB ports and a fairly decent amount of storage, which is really nice. So going up here is a wireless charger, and I did find that with this little shelf they provide here, with the fact that these edges are raised and a little divider at the top, that it actually works very well. It keeps your phone in place, so that's really nice. The whole driving experience is centered around this 15-inch command display, and at first it made me a little bit nervous, the lack of mechanical knobs and buttons and controls, but like other aspects of this car, it was easy for me to pick up and get used to. As you can see on the steering wheel, again, not much. You have 2 controls that can go to the right, to the left, and for the most part, everything that you can touch on the command display here, this 15-inch display, you can also manipulate with these roller knobs. You have to the right here a stalk that is your shift gear. So you have your reverse, neutral, drive, and park. And for reverse, it is all the way up. For drive, you pull it all the way down. And to park, you push the button on the side. On the left-hand side, you do have your directionals, and you also have your wiper controls. So aside from that, everything else is in this display. And as you can see here at the top, it gives you the time, the temperature, it gives you the ability to connect via Tesla's internet connection or to your home Wi-Fi when you're in range. The screen is split between this left side, which is your driving center, and the right side, which is your additional features. This will always show you what gear you're in, the speed you're going, what the speed limit is, and other aspects of your driving experience, which I'll show once we get started. It'll show you your car, so when you would like to open your trunk or your frunk, given that there's no engine in the front, there's storage capability on the front and the back. You just tap that. This little lightning bolt with the circle pointing to the rear driver side is what you would press when you're ready to charge the vehicle. Moving on down here, this little eye is your camera. This is your current charge. You can set limits. You then have a row of icons at the bottom. If you press the icon of the Tesla, it'll bring up your main feature display. And if you go in order on the left, the first one is quick control, which will give you the ability to change your lighting, your fog lights, your side mirrors, your steering wheel, your window locks, and your display. Moving on to the lights, same thing, whether you want them on auto, off, on, or parking, as well as the interior dome lights. Your preference as far as locks and keys and capability for remote unlocking. Your display modes, whether it's a day or night or auto, as well as the brightness. Driving, personally for me, having a couple days with this car, this was a often used menu. This is where you can decide the responsiveness of the vehicle, meaning from an acceleration standpoint, do you want it to be more conservative and optimizing mileage? You would put it on chill. Of course, I'm a spirited driver, so I have put that on sport. Steering mode, the same idea, comfort, standard, and sport. And regenerative braking, giving you the option between standard and low. And I will tell you, unlike some other cars, there's a big difference between each one of these. A noticeable difference. Moving from the driving to the autopilot, this is where you can set the different elements of your autopilot, how far you want the distance between your car and the car ahead of you, whether you want to use auto steer, which you can see here is highlighted, navigation on autopilot, both of these within beta, and etc. So full self-driving visualization preview, which you'll see on the screen as you drive, and we'll test that out in a minute here. But this is where you would set all the features of autopilot. You have your navigation, you have safety and security, where you can set speed limit. Here's your service. Interesting, no button for the glove box. You do have to go into the menu to release the glove box. Going out of this, you have your music, which this car has the premium audio, including 14 speakers, one subwoofer, 2 amps, and immersive sound. And I have to say that this does really sound good. It's a great sounding stereo system. Moving on to the third icon, we have your connectivity for your phone, a calendar, your backup camera, also shows you energy, your charging, you can connect to the web. There's also kind of neat, press toy box, and it gives you some fun little games you can play. Leaving toy box, we have your heated seats, both driver and passenger. Rear passengers have heated seats, both on the outboard side as well as the center, which is pretty neat. You have your climate control in the middle, with the fan. This will give you the speed of the fan. You can set automatic climate controls, and this is the neatest part to me. It shows the waveform of the air coming out and where it's coming out from and how intense it is. And you can go in and you can change that, or lower. You can change your temperature here. You can have both driver and passenger, so dual climate control. Overall, all the touchscreen is very responsive, so there's really not a delay, or at least not one that I have noticed in which it would be a problem. I'm sure you're all interested in us getting started and see how this is to drive. So looking around, there's no ignition, there's no button to start the car. Well, the fact of the matter is, as soon as you unlock it and you get in, as we went through looking at the command display here, the car is already on. But to put it in gear and start moving, and when you're using the Tesla card, you need to place the card right above and in between where the cup holders are. And I don't know how I feel about that. I like the self-entry, where cars realize that the key is in my pocket, I can press the button and I can go. I'm sure with the app, it is much more user-friendly, but you need to put the card there, and guess what happens as soon as you get moving along? The card starts sliding around, and yes, you can move it. It's not going to stop the car from driving, but it just seems like a little bit of a pain in the ass and unnecessary to me. Press the brake. Drive is all the way down. You can see we're in park here. Drive is all the way down. The car is ready, and we can get going. So the first thing you notice with this car is how quiet it is. There's no exhaust to make any noise. There's no shifting of gears, and as such, revving of your engine through the different gears at different RPMs, which is both good and potentially disappointing for those who enjoy that. It's a very smooth ride. I do have the regenerative braking on, and for someone who's not used to that, in a traditional car, you'd let off the gas and more or less you coast. With the regenerative braking, when you let off the gas, you feel as though there's some automatic braking, and that is the car's regenerative braking system working. So if I let go of the gas right now, it's almost as though I'm applying the brakes. When you give it gas, there's no waiting, there's no pause for gas to go through the fuel injectors into the cylinders, for the pistons to start moving, etc., etc. All the mechanical aspects you would find in a traditional gas-powered vehicle. Here, you give it a little bit of acceleration. I shouldn't use the word gas. You give it a little bit of acceleration, and you're going to feel it instantaneously. The feeling of the steering itself is pretty direct, very responsive. Acceleration, you can feel it at any time. So I mentioned the 0 to 60 of 3.2 seconds. It's not one of those cars where, unless you're really giving it, or if you're really on the gas, you don't notice it. You notice it from a standstill. And that's because you have the instantaneous torque associated with the electric motors. As we go around some of these corners and have found that the car handles really well, and a reminder, this specific car does not have the 20-inch tires and rims, doesn't have the Michelin. This one has 19-inch with all-season Continental pure contact tires. So not as performance oriented, but yet it feels really planted. You definitely feel it grip the corners. And of course, being all-wheel drive, I'm sure has somewhat to do with that. And it just feels very planted. And the combination of that with the accelerator, the direct steering, gives this car a very sporty demeanor. I thought having the speedometer over here might be a detriment, might be distracting, but quite frankly, it's not too far off your line of sight. So typically you'd sit here with your steering and you would look down quickly into a speedometer here, but instead of doing that, all you're doing is quickly looking to the right and it's actually up higher than what you would find a traditional speedometer would be. So it's not a bad thing. Oh, that torque is right there. I've never felt anything like it. Yeah, I've been in cars where you have torque, but it builds, and sure, it may build quickly, but this is just instantaneous and a lot of it. Is this meeting, exceeding expectations? How does it compare to what I thought prior to having this for a couple days? It is definitely exceeding my expectations. The performance, the price, price point of this one being, 56 to, 62, depending on how you spec this out. Again, this is the performance model. That is what I would end up getting. I don't think it's a bad deal. And to engage the autopilot, you simply press down on the gear selector level twice fully. And there we go. I have my speed set at 73, speed limit 65. You can see the vehicles on my side, which is interesting. And if I want to change lanes because the car in front of me is going slow, simply put on my directionals for the lane next to me, and the car will automatically change lanes when it's safe. I had mentioned about the noise being pretty quiet at under 50 miles per hour. Here on the highway, you definitely, at 69 miles per hour, definitely have some wind noise coming through and a little bit of tire noise. It is louder than I expected. It is a sport luxury automobile. It is a Tesla. I thought it would be quieter than what it is. I'm not sure if it's a situation where we don't have any exhaust noise, no engine noise, none of the other peripheral sounds coming through, and as such it just makes the sound that we do hear, the road noise from the tires, the wind noise, appear to be louder. Going back to the autopilot, to disengage this, you could tug the wheel a little bit. However, given the steering of this vehicle, I would not recommend that on the highway because it will definitely jar your vehicle. I would recommend that you simply tap the brake and that would disable it. There's a period of time in which it looks for you to actively give some input to the steering wheel, most likely making sure that you're not falling asleep or that you are paying attention to the road around you. It'll flash a little blue, it'll give you a message at the bottom here, and all I've done was just do a little bit of a movement, apply slight turning force to the steering wheel, and there's the blue right there. So when the white line changes to either go off an off ramp and exit, or someone coming on the highway from an on ramp, it confuses the Tesla a little bit. It tries to keep you centered, and that lane starts widening and it doesn't know exactly where to put the car. So this is such a great car. It is so unique that I could go on and on. Thank you for watching, and until next time.